Good morning. It's Monday, the 20th of January. You're tuned in to our 10 a.m. newscast, coming to you from ARIRANG's news centre in Seoul. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. A Korean government worker has been kidnapped by unidentified armed men in the Libyan capital Tripoli. The Foreign Ministry says Han Suk-woo is the chief of the Libya office of the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency. Authorities issue a 48-hour travel ban on poultry and livestock farms in Korea's southwestern Jeolla region after confirming 2 cases of the H5N8 avian influenza virus. Plus, financial authorities say the personal information of at least 20 million credit card users in Korea has been leaked. Concerns arising the leaked information could end up in the hands of criminal organizations. Let's start with the troubling news out of Libya. Seoul's foreign ministry says a Korean trade official was kidnapped in the Libyan capital of Tripoli on Sunday evening local time, which is Monday morning Korea time. The ministry says Han Suk-woo, director of the Libya office of the state-run Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency, otherwise known as KOTRA, was taken by a group of armed men on his way home from work. Not much information has been released about the identity or the motive of the kidnappers. The Korean government and KOTRA have convened an emergency meeting, and we will bring you more details on this in our next newscast at noon, which is in about 2 hours' time. Turning now to the latest on the bird flu outbreak here in Korea. The government has issued a so-called temporary standstill order which bans the movement of livestock and farm workers. This after confirming an outbreak of the H5N8 strain of bird flu at farms in the country's southwest. Park Ji-won reports.
The government was quick to act following the confirmation of Korea's first cases of bird flu in over 2.5 years. The movement of livestock and livestock-related facilities and people in Korea's southwestern Jeollado province was banned for 48 hours in an attempt to contain the outbreak to that area.
The Korean government has ordered a temporary standstill as of 12 a.m. Sunday on livestock, people working at livestock farms and livestock facilities in Jeollado province to curb the spread of the avian influenza, according to the country's Livestock Infectious Diseases Prevention Act.
The order remains in effect until midnight Monday. The Agriculture Ministry says, as there have been no additional reports of possible infection cases since Sunday, it has no plans to lengthen the standstill order. Currently, bird flu cases have been confirmed at 3 local poultry farms in Gochang and Buan counties. 2 of those cases have been confirmed as the highly pathogenic H5N8 strain. The other case has yet to be confirmed, but it is one of the H5 strains. Quarantine authorities say about 100,000 birds have been culled or will be culled over the next few days. The exact cause of the outbreak has not yet been confirmed, but experts are investigating the possibility that migratory birds brought the virus to Korea. Korea culled more than 3 million birds during the most recent bird flu outbreak in 2011. Park Ji-won, ARIRANG News.
Now to some more troubling news in Korea. The personal data of some 20 million Korean bank and credit card users has been leaked, affecting almost all economically active people in the nation. But state prosecutors are doing their best to reassure the public that the data has not been leaked to any criminal organizations. Hwang Ji-ae has the details.
Korea's financial regulators on Sunday confirmed that the personal data of some 20 million bank clients and credit card users have been leaked. This includes almost all economically active people in Korea, including minister-level officials and celebrities. The Financial Supervisory Service says information taken includes the names, phone numbers, credit card numbers, addresses, and even banking records of millions of customers. The data was stolen from local credit card firms KB Kookmin Card, Lotte Card, and NH Nongyap Card. Authorities say an employee from personal credit ratings company Korea Credit Bureau stole customer data from the 3 firms and later sold the information to phone marketing companies. The employee was arrested earlier this month. State prosecutors have moved to reassure the public that this incident has not resulted in the leakage of any information to criminal organizations, for now at least. The Financial Supervisory Service says the credit card companies will cover any financial losses caused to their customers, while the watchdog is pushing to strengthen related regulations by having financial firms tighten restrictions to access client information. It's warning customers to be alert to online and phone-based financial scams. Hang Jie, ARIRANG News.
President Park Geun-hye on a state visit to Switzerland has been busy promoting Korean culture and taking part in various performance-related events. Our presidential office correspondent Ahn Jung-geun, who is travelling with the president, sent us this report.
President Park has been putting great emphasis on culture as a means to better communicate and connect with local people when she travels to different countries. She made sure to keep this tradition going in Switzerland. The president attended the Korea Fantasy on Sunday, a performance composed of various Korean traditional dances by the National Theatre of Korea at the Pal Clay Center in Bern. The Korea Fantasy has been performed more than 600 times in some 60 countries to promote Korean dance to global audiences.
한국 전통 춤은 무용은 역동성이 있으면서도 또 정적인 면이 있다고 하는데 오늘 여러분 보시면서 그렇게 느끼셨습니까?
The presidential office of Cheongwada says the president's participation in the event demonstrates her determination to expand the Korean wave, or Hallyu, which is currently centered around Korean dramas and pop culture, to traditional culture and even fine art. Ahead of the performance, President Park also looked around an exhibition on the life and work of German-Swiss painter Paul Klee, who is known for painting the first abstract works in the 20th century, along with Russian artist Vasily Kandinsky. She also met with 6 pro-Korean figures in Switzerland, 3 of whom worked at the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission in Korea, and called on them to act as a bridge between the two nations in their respective sectors. President Park is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with President of the Swiss Confederation Didier Reynders on Monday and seek ways to strengthen cooperation in the sector of advanced technology and benchmark Switzerland's educational system. Ahn Jung-geun, ARIRANG News, Bern.
The Korean government has pledged nearly $660 million for the country's basic research projects this year. That's about $17 million more than last year. And the Science Ministry says it will work to reduce competition in selecting candidates for financial support. The ministry also hopes to see more innovative research ideas and plans to bring experienced and young researchers to work together in partnership. There will also be increased opportunities for female researchers and those based outside of Seoul. The Korean government is putting more emphasis on supporting Korean history research and education in an effort to strengthen the field. The Education Ministry says a special task force team has been set up to support research projects in colleges and institutions and will provide history teachers with strict teaching guidelines. The team will also work to counter false claims made by neighbouring countries. As part of efforts to improve the nation's awareness of history, the government announced last August that it will require students to take Korean history as part of the National College entrance exam from 2017. A memorial hall honouring one of Korea's most famous independence fighters has opened in northeastern China. This development is likely to aggravate Korea and China's already frosty relations with Japan. Shin Se-min reports.
A memorial hall honoring Korean patriot Ahn Jung-geun has opened in the northeastern Chinese city of Harbin. The city's railway station is where in 1909 Ahn shot and killed Hirobumi Ito, who had served as the Prime Minister of Japan 4 times before becoming Resident General of Korea in 1905. The memorial hall consists of exhibition rooms telling the story of Ahn's life and shows the exact spot where the shooting took place. The facility was built after President Park Geun-hye brought up the idea of creating a monument for Ahn during her meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping last June. Hailed as a hero in Korea and China, Ahn is considered a murderer by many Japanese. Tokyo had asked Beijing to scrap plans to build a memorial. And in the meantime, Beijing and Tokyo continue to be at each other's throat over a variety of issues, including Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's recent visit to the Yasukuni War Shrine, which honors Japanese war dead, as well as several Class A war criminals. Japan's ambassador to the U.S. fired the latest salvo, accusing China of a misled campaign that falsely portrays Abe as glorifying Tokyo's militaristic past. Both Japan and China have come under international scrutiny in recent months. Japan for Abe's Yasukuni visit and China for its recent demarcation of a new air defense zone over a disputed area of the East China Sea. Seoul and Beijing have condemned Japanese politicians' visit to the Yasukuni Shrine and for Tokyo's refusal to apologize for the nation's wartime atrocities. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
A monument remembering the suffering of thousands of women drafted into sexual slavery by the Japanese military during World War II has been built in the U.S. state of New York. Resolutions from both the New York State Senate and the New York House are engraved on the statue, helping to remember the victims who suffered. Officials say an opening ceremony will be held on Friday local time. Last Friday, U.S. President Barack Obama signed into a federal spending bill that includes a provision on Japan's wartime sexual enslavement. The bill cites a 2007 resolution asking for the Japanese government to address the issue of the so-called comfort women, mainly from Korea and China, who were forced into sexual servitude for Japanese soldiers during World War II. Korea's producer prices fell for the 15th straight month in December as the strong local currency cut import prices. The Bank of Korea said Monday that the nation's producer prices dropped 0.4% last month from the same period a year earlier. Producer prices for 2013 also fell 1.6% from the previous year. The Producer Price Index, which is a barometer of future consumer inflation, indicates a low inflation trend might continue for the time being. In international news, protesters attacked riot police in the Ukrainian capital Kiev on Sunday as tens of thousands of Ukrainians massed in defiance of sweeping new laws at stamping out anti-government demonstrations. Son Jung-in reports.
Laws to curb public protests have added extra spice to anti-government protests in Ukraine. Nearly 200,000 protesters massed in Kiev Sunday in defiance of the new legislation, which bans Ukrainians from nearly all forms of protest. The rally turned violent when demonstrators clashed with police as they tried to march towards the parliament building from the main square. The protesters set a police bus on fire and used stun grenades on riot police, who blocked the street and fired tear gas at the approaching masses. Scores of people were injured in the clashes, including more than a dozen police officers. Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych caused uproar last Friday when he signed into force a set of tough new laws that ban virtually all forms of anti-government protests. The new legislation, criticized by the U.S. and the EU as undemocratic, bans any unauthorized installation of tents, stages, or amplifiers. It also allows to impose hefty fines and prison terms of up to 15 years for breaches of public order. The political crisis in Ukraine erupted 2 months ago after Yanukovych walked away from a landmark free trade deal with the EU in favor of closer economic ties with Russia. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
Ahead of this week's international talks in Switzerland to end the Syrian civil war, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has reportedly said his stepping down would not be an option at the upcoming talks. According to an Interfax news agency report, the Syrian president told Russian lawmakers in Damascus that if he had intended to surrender, he would have done so from the start. The Syrian government later dismissed the report, saying it was inaccurate without giving further details. With the Western-backed opposition, the Syrian National Coalition, agreeing to attend the UN-led peace conference, questions remain whether the participating sides will be able to make any progress Iran has also, within the last hour or so, accepted the UN's invitation to take part in the Syrian peace conference. Korea's first US authorities, are looking into the credibility of a possible new threat to the Sochi Winter Olympics. ABC News reported Sunday that Islamist militants in Russia released a video recorded by 2 suicide bombers who said the Olympics would not be safe, adding they have a present ready for the Games. The opening ceremony will be held on February 7th in Sochi. In the face of concerns about possible attacks by militants, US military and intelligence officials have been studying contingency plans for evacuating Americans from Sochi in case of a crisis. But US officials have concluded there would be major obstacles to mounting a large-scale mission, as Russian authorities have historically been reluctant to allow foreign military forces, especially those of the US, on Russian territory. Now, Korea's first polar research centre on Antarctica is slated for completion in mid-February. The government will dispatch a research team to the centre at the end of the month, and they'll be stationed on the frozen continent for 1 year. Kim Min-ji reports.
This is Changbogo Antarctic Research Station, Korea's first research center on the southern continent. With a floor area of 4,500 square meters, it can accommodate 60 people and is capable of generating its own electricity using solar and wind energy. The researchers who will be dispatched to the station at the end of the month have undergone intense training to enable them to endure the harsh landscape and unpredictable weather on the frozen land. Although the center will be equipped with doctors and medical equipment, the researchers have also learned to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation in case of an emergency. The research team also has members who can cook, which might be a major task given that people in the Antarctic usually see their body weight fall about 8 kilograms. The new polar station is just over 80% complete and is slated for completion on February 14th. That's about a month faster than expected, which is quite a feat since construction can only be done 65 days out of the year due to the extreme weather on the continent. But fierce winter weather is expected in March, and if the station isn't finished by then, construction will have to be stopped and resumed in December. If, on the other hand, all goes according to plan and the weather cooperates, the first batch of researchers will depart for Changbogo Antarctic Research Station next weekend, and they are scheduled to be there until December 31st. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Now, skinny jeans remain a popular fashion trend among young Koreans, but at what cost? Doctors say the tight pants pose long-term health risks to your legs and circulation and are one reason for a recent surge in patients suffering from varicose veins. Our Paulie reports.
29-year-old Park So-ra underwent surgery last year to treat a case of varicose veins, which often left her legs sore and looking bruised after a hard day's work.
My legs would painfully seize up so much that I had to stop walking and massage them. I also have to raise my legs when I go to sleep, or else I'll get cramps at night.
Varicose veins is a condition that commonly develops due to the wear and tear of blood vessels. Normal blood flow occurs when veins are able to efficiently bring back blood to the heart. However, veins that have damaged valves can lose their ability to prevent blood from flowing backwards. This in turn causes blood vessels to become stretched out and twisted. It's a vascular disease that has seen a huge spike over the last 6 years, especially among young people. According to Korea's National Health Insurance Corporation, nearly 100,000 women were diagnosed with varicose veins in 2012, accounting for over 60% of patients nationwide. Women in their 40s and 50s in particular remain at the highest risk of developing spider veins. Doctors say working on your feet or even sitting in your office chair for long periods of time can place an unnecessary strain on your lower body. Skinny jeans and tight boots are also culprits in worsening varicose vein symptoms.
Tight, skinny jeans place more pressure on the hips and thighs. Therefore, they act in preventing the release of pooling blood in the legs, as well as add to the growing pressure within blood vessels.
It's recommended you stay active and stretch your muscles throughout the day to promote blood circulation. Regular exercise is your next best bet in keeping your legs smooth and healthy in the long run. Paul Yi, ARIRANG News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the LPGA. Now, after an impressive 2013 season, we're all looking forward to Park In-bi's 2014 season. But even with the season opener kicking off this week, we won't be seeing Park In-bi just yet. With the 2014 Pure Silk Bahamas LPGA Classic taking place this week, the world #1 Park In-bi will skip the event, stating that she is not yet ready for the new season. Park, who's currently training in Australia, will also skip the ISPS Honda Women's Australia Open and compete at the Honda LPGA Thailand to kick off her 2014 season. Moving on, the NC Dinos in the KBO are going into their second season in the league, and yet they don't have a place where they can call home. But one city has stepped up and is hoping to give the NC Dinos that home. Ulsan City's head councilman Seo Dong-wook stated in a recent interview that the city will look into making Ulsan the new home of the NC Dinos. With Ulsan's Munsu Baseball Stadium being nearing completion, the team stated that anything is possible but cannot make their decision just yet. Now, this comes after the city of Changwon continues to be under fire for failing to provide a ballpark for the team. And over to the U22 AFC Championship quarterfinals between Korea and Syria. Now, thanks to two quick first-half goals from Baek Sung-dong and Hwang Hee-jo, Korea pulled away with a 2-1 victory and will advance to the semifinals. And now with that, shifting over to the 2013-2014 V-League All-Star Game. Now, the game was split into the women's side playing the first two sets and the men's side playing the third and fourth set. And as the V-Stars took on the K-Stars, it was quite an entertaining day. Now, a very close match from the start as the K-Stars take the first set 15-12 before the V-Stars answer back with a 15-13 second set win. With the score at 28-27, the men's side took the court as the K-Stars continued to dominate, taking the third set 15-13 before finishing off the game with the final score of 58-51. Meanwhile, Thomas Egger of LIG, Yo Yeon of Hyundai Capital Skywalkers, and Betty of GS Caltex earned this year's MVP honors. And finishing things off with some Sunday's KBL action, we had the KT Sonic Boom cruise past Anyang KGC 73-75, with the Goyang Orions beating Wonju Dongbu Promi 78-69. Meanwhile, the matchup we've all been waiting for, the Seoul SK Knights taking on Jeonju KCC Aegis. Now, after the infamous elbow incident, Aaron Haynes and Kim Min-gu shake hands and can't smile again. But once the game started, it was business as usual as KCC took an early 16-13 lead after the first quarter, before they struggle in the second quarter as the SK Knights rally back, take a 31-25 lead going into halftime. But thanks to Tyler Wilkerson's 10 points in the third, KCC back in the game once again as they take a 3-point lead with 4 seconds left in regulation. But SK's Kim Sun-young with a rescue here, clutch 3 to tie it, and we go to overtime. Kim Sun-young continues to shoot hot in the OT as SK takes this game 82-74. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
And time now to check in on the weather conditions, not only in Korea, but around the world too. And that's all for now. Have a fabulous rest of the day, and we do hope to see you back again for our next newscast, which is coming up at noon Korea time.